Hello and welcome back to Ringside Regression. This is like our 15th episode, I think, which is kind of crazy.
I've lost count.
Yeah, I've lost count. I think that's a good thing, right? Like, because once you get past 10, I feel like you kind of stop counting. So that's good. Thank you for everybody who's been listening. Views have been pretty steady, so that's a good sign. That means we're not losing everybody. But so yeah, thank you again for watching. And if you want to watch the full videos, they are available on YouTube. If you don't know that, if you just want to listen to the audio, we do offer on Apple and Spotify as well. So make sure to go there and rate, give us 5 stars, go like the videos, do whatever you need to, and then follow the Instagram. We've been lacking on clips, but we're gonna work on that because I think those are important. But we've both been busy, so
Yeah, it's a summer. We're stepping up our game.
yeah, exactly. Well, the playoffs are ramping up. Everything's going pretty good. So let's begin by giving a quick little check in on the second round, and then we're gonna do two team offseason outlooks as well. So we're gonna do Buffalo and Anaheim today. So let's begin first of all with the bracket and Dallas Winnipeg. 3 games in. Has this series been like everything you expected it to be so far?
It definitely has, and I think my favorite part about this series is all the narratives that were sort of established towards the end of the season and the first round with Mikko Rantanen and Connor Hellebuyck, arguably the best player on each side of this series, showing out and performing their best. Obviously, Hellebuyck the shutout in Game 2, and Mikko Rantanen multiple three-point performances in this series, including a hat trick in Game 1. So it's been a really entertaining series. I still think it's going 7, and I think it's been probably the best one out of the 4 so far, in my opinion. That for my enjoyment, at least. I don't know about you.
Probably. Man, there's been 3 like I think Washington Carolina pretty easily has been the worst. I think the other 3 you can make an argument for any of them being the best series so far. This
Yeah.
round they've all been really good, but this is definitely in that conversation. Quick note on Mikko Rantanen. He had I think it was like he has had contributions, so a goal or an assist on like 14 of Dallas's last 17 goals in the playoffs, which is crazy, including a streak of 13 straight. Which is like that's insane for like at any point in the season to be contributing to 13 straight goals for your team, much less in the playoffs. So I guess my question to you is like what's like the fewest number of points from now until the end of the playoffs that Mikko Rantanen could get for him to not win the Conn Smythe? Like what's the barrier from now until like if Dallas were to win the cup? Like if he had like 7 more points from now until the Stanley Cup final, is he still winning the Conn Smythe? Because I think he probably is, which is insane. Like that's how good he's been in the last like 6 games.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know if you kind of like I couldn't put a number on it, but I think like 7 or 8 points from now until the end of the playoffs is like the threshold for him to like
How
not
many
win
is
the
he
Conn
at?
Smythe.
Is he at 18 right now?
I think so, yeah.
25. He needs 25.
Yeah, like that's great. Like you could get that by the end of the series. Like
If he's a point a game, he's winning the Conn Smythe, is the way I see it.
yeah, I think like the next closest person would probably be Jake Ottinger. I think odds wise, Jake Ottinger is the next. I think the odds for the Conn Smythe. I was looking at it earlier. I think Brandon's at like plus 450, which is insane for the second round of the playoffs. Like that's crazy. And then like Jake Ottinger's like plus 2,000, and he's the next like most likely. Like it's insane
Wow.
how like the difference in all like Mikko Rantanen is hands down the favorite to win the Conn Smythe this point. I mean, like I can't really disagree. Like he's been pretty easily the best player in the playoffs. Yeah, 13 straight. I couldn't believe that when I heard that stat. I guess quickly we can talk about the controversial goal in Game 3, the 8-minute review that happened.
Yeah,
Uh,
that was wild.
yeah, what were kind of your thoughts on it? Because I wasn't watching it with sound, so I was at a Mother's Day dinner and they had it on the TV, so we were watching it, but we couldn't really figure out what the conversation was for the replay. So obviously, like I watched it after and heard all that, but at the time, all we really had was the video. There was I didn't have anything to go on, so it was really was really hotly contested debate going on over rules that nobody really knew the full extent to. So it was kind of a crazy couple minutes. But uh, personally, the way I look at it is if you're reviewing something for more than like 7 or 8 minutes, you kind of just have to go with what the call on the ice was, because clearly there's nothing definitive either way. And that's what they ended up doing. So in
Yeah,
that context, I think they probably got it right.
I'm in the same boat as you. I think if you have to look at it for that long, then just human judgment at that point initially is best. And
Yeah.
as well, I didn't watch the game live. I just watched the recap and then I saw it and I was like, what the heck? And then I was like I watched it a few times. I was like, yeah, I feel like the people in the video room right now, like looking at this so much. And
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a part of the sport too, right? Having the referees, it's a whole dynamic of it's part of sports culture and tradition, especially in hockey too, right?
Yeah.
Not every call is going to be perfect, but the best teams find ways to work around that and still win. So,
Yeah. And I think like and just to that point, finally to kind of cap off the series, I think that's a good point, because Jets fans were acting like that's the goal that ended the game, but really it was the 4-2 goal like a minute later that ended the game. And I think not having that bounce back after a call not going your way, is something that good teams get over, and the Jets didn't. And that could be a defining moment of the series, potentially. And I think that's something to note, is the fact that the Winnipeg Jets absolutely collapsed after not getting that call. And you don't really see that happen to to top teams in the league. So I think that's something to watch as this series goes on, and as the pressure continues to heat up for them.
yeah,
But
absolutely. Should we move on to Vegas?
yes, another really fun. Like, man, you talk about the 1.4 second goal in Game 7 with Winnipeg and St. Louis. Well, the the Vegas Golden Knights eclipsed that with a 0.4 second goal to win the game in Game 3. What a like! I think the play on that whole goal. I think it was William Karlsson that started that rush, right? Am I
He
am I
did.
losing my mind? Yeah, like that play by William Karlsson is like the defining play of the playoffs for me. Like I don't think anything's gonna beat it. Like the fact that he just took that puck when they were hemmed into their zone to pretty much end the period, and he took it, and then instead of just trying to wind the clock down, he's like, we have like 5 seconds left. I'm gonna go try to score, and then the play by Riley Smith just to like wait out Stuart Skinner. Um, with like a second left on the clock is insane, because most players just want to get that shot off, right? And he was able to kind of hold on to it for like half a second longer, wait out Skinner, and then obviously he got a bit of help from Leon Draisaitl. But man, that was like I don't think we're gonna get, and maybe we will, because we've had some pretty good finishes so far in these playoffs. But that might be the craziest finish to a game that we see for quite a while. Never mind just in
Yeah.
these playoffs. That's been a fun series, I think, so
Yeah, and
far.
I kind of don't like the narrative that it was Skinner's fault for coming out like that. I actually didn't hate that he came out and
I didn't
challenged
hate it
Smith as
either.
much as
Yeah.
that, especially considering the time. Because
Mhm.
if Draisaitl doesn't touch that puck, the trajectory of it is going through the crease and
Yeah.
it's going to overtime. So again, just like an unfortunate circumstance and a player that has a narrative surrounding him that just
Mhm.
takes the beating for it. So, but I think it's been a great series. I know some people that were at the game where Eichel got walked by McDavid for the overtime
That was
winner. So
crazy.
they said that was insane live. So that was also one of my favorite goals of the playoffs as well. That
Oh
overtime winner
yeah.
for Draisaitl. It was just traditional between the two of them. And
Oh yeah.
you're, thank God your cup pick won game 3, or else it was not
Oh
looking
man,
good.
yeah.
So it's still
But like
alive.
it,
I'm shocked.
yeah,
They lose the first 2 on the road at home, and then they win game 3 on the road in Edmonton.
yeah,
So
yeah. We'll see what happens. Game 4 is gonna be big, but it really feels like if Vegas wins Game 4, like they kind of have the series. Like it felt like they really lost it in the first 2 games, and then that Game 3 win really changed the momentum of this series.
yeah,
So Game 4 is gonna be a big one. I can't believe I'm
Mark
saying this,
Stone
but
might
like
not play.
yeah, I've heard, but like it feels like Calvin Pickard is like the X factor in the series, right? Like if he comes back, like everything's okay in Edmonton, which is crazy, because like I never thought I'd say that, but it's not like like I don't think Skinner played that bad in Game 3, but obviously we'll see what happens in Game 4.
He was like a prodigy prospect like 10 years ago.
Yeah, even like 4 years ago. it's,
Who
it's
did
been
he
pretty
who did he
yeah.
play for? Who was he a pro? Was it who did he start
He was,
with?
he
I
was at
have his
Edmonton. Skinner?
Oh, I was talking about Pickard.
Oh, Pickard. Oh, he's been around. I don't. Yeah, that's a
Who did he start with? I have his rookie card. Oh, it was a team in the Central. I think it was
Was it the
Colorado,
Blues?
right?
Or it might have been Yeah, it's Colorado. I think he played for the Blues at some point too. He's
Oh,
been
let me look
around.
it up. Let's see.
But yeah, overall,
Col
like, man,
Colorado, Toronto for one
Toronto.
game.
Was St. Louis on there? Tell me St. Louis was on there.
No, no
Ugh,
St. Louis. Colorado, Philly, Arizona, Detroit. He spent most of his
he's been
entire
so
career
many.
in, yeah, basically Colorado and Edmonton. And I
Yeah,
think he
okay,
was the
Colorado.
starter for that historically bad Colorado team.
Yeah, I believe he was. Which is
He played
he's
50
been
games
around.
that year.
So yeah, it definitely feels like game four is I mean game four is gonna be a swing game in a lot of these series, but I think more so
This one.
in really both the West series. I think the game fours are the most impactful there.
Yeah.
Even more so than game four was for Florida. Like I think if the Leafs are up 3-1, I think there's still enough like baggage there that I'd still like have some faith in Florida. But in terms of both Winnipeg and Vegas, I think if they go down 3-1, the series is basically over. But we'll see. I don't know. Crazier things have happened.
Speaking of the East, why don't we talk about Florida, Toronto?
Yeah, this one's been fun, man.
It's been a really good series.
Yeah, it's been, and I think it's like the animosity in the series has been like ramping up every game. I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, they like the refs have to get control of the series before it gets like. I think the stakes of the series will kind of calm everything down. In game 5, 6, and 7, like as the games get more meaningful, the Florida Panthers aren't really going to want to hand the Toronto Maple Leafs power plays and vice versa. So, uh, that's been really interesting. I also think it's really interesting to note that notable doesn't have the dog in him. William Nylander was getting the Alex Barkov line in both games in Florida, not Austin Matthews. So, just a little fun tidbit there for all the Mike Rupp supporters out there who agree with William Nylander sucking, and he's been really good. So Paul Maurice seems to think so because he's playing his best defensive line against him instead of Austin Matthews. So that's kind of fun. But Toronto's hung in it, man. They've looked fine even in the last couple games. I didn't think they were that bad. There's been a couple games that could have went either way in the series. Like even in game 4, like I think Florida was that was probably their best game of the series. And it was 1-0 for a lot of it. It felt like it was just one bounce and Toronto was right back in it. And then obviously the Panthers got the second goal, which iced the game. But overall, like I've been really impressed with the Leafs. They've probably been the most impressive team to me in the second round, just based on how much of a chance I gave them. And they're right there, man. They're 2 games away from the Eastern Conference Final, which is crazy to say. And they still have home ice advantage. So we'll see how they bounce back in game 5.
Yeah, absolutely. I gave him 2 games at least, so
There you go.
if Florida wins the next 2, and I also said they win the first one, which I was right about. So
Yeah. Okay.
I was a little more nice to the Leafs than you were, so
Yeah.
it's nice to see that they're playing up to their potential here, and maybe they'll
Yeah, for
get
sure.
to the conference final for the first time in this Matthews era. I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I feel like, and I think I said this in the round 2 preview too. Like, I wasn't trying to be mean to the Leafs. I just thought Florida was a juggernaut. But like, if the Panthers do end up going on a run here, how thankful are they going to be that the Lightning series was only 5 games because they had that extra time off? Like, I think that's going to be if the Panthers end up going on another run to the final, that's going to be a big catalyst as to why I think was how short the Lightning series is, because this is going to be a dogfight with Toronto. Like this could easily go 7, and it's been a brutal series. And then what is most likely Carolina coming out of the other side? This looks like the most competent Hurricanes team they've had in a while too. So I think getting that extra break in round 1 could be a big factor moving forward, and something just kind of keep in the back of your mind.
But I could also see the other side too before we transition to the next series is that they can beat a Carolina or Washington in 5 games too.
That's true. Yeah, that is also true. So, yeah, it could work. Yeah, that could work out as well. And then obviously there's like the 4-day break the NHL usually does between the conference finals and the final. So,
Yeah.
Florida could be. I mean, obviously they need to like we're thinking 2 rounds ahead here, but really the situation is that break could be good, especially for a team Florida more so than anybody else in this bracket, just because of how much hockey they've played in the last 3 years. So, just something to kind of keep in mind as we move forward. But speaking of that Hurricanes Capital series, pretty easily I think the worst series so far. I feel like Washington is just getting thoroughly manhandled out there by the Hurricanes. And yeah, I don't see a ton of hope here outside of Logan Thompson for Washington, who's been really good in these playoffs. I don't know. Is there a light for the Capitals here? Because I don't really see one, but I mean, this is a team that won the Eastern Conference, right? So there is something there. Maybe you can find it.
I watched game 2 on the plane coming home. I believe it was Thursday night, last Thursday. And they looked really good in game 2. They actually played a very good game. They were actually controlling possession in game 2 up until the third period, which is obviously when you have score state effects. Carolina was down a goal. Obviously, they had like 1 or 2 shifts there in the third where they probably accumulated like 8 or 9 shots, which was insane. They had possession in the zone for like 2 minutes. Washington was gas. They did like 2 full line changes. They had like 15 different players on the ice. Washington only had 5. But I thought they looked really good in game 2, and if they can show any of that, then they can make this a series. But I think Carolina's probably going to walk away with this one. I think we're seeing them back in the Eastern Conference Final again.
Yeah.
The only way we're not seeing Carolina in the Eastern Conference Final is the New York Rangers at this point.
Yeah.
So
sure, yeah. Seems like everybody's got their kryptonite, right? Like it's really it's really fascinating to see how all these teams always lose the same. I mean, Washington, it was the Rangers and the Penguins for forever in the second round. So, and they eventually got past those demons. So, I don't know. We'll see. So, transitioning now away from the playoffs to some lottery teams, the Buffalo Sabres, a team that going into last season, or I guess 2 years ago, going to not this season but the season before, a lot of people had as a playoff team, including myself. I was very high on the Buffalo Sabres. I thought this is when they turn it around, everything's gonna be great. Obviously they didn't, and then going into this year, I don't think anybody had the Buffalo Sabres as a playoff team because people were kind of tired of falling for it. Where do you go from here? Like what? Because like the prospect pool looks good, right? Like everything looks good on paper, right? Like I think like you look at the prospect pool, it's like they have a ton of really really fascinating young players, especially young forwards, that I'm really excited about. They have they have the guys kind of at the top of this lineup. You have your Tage Thompsons. I think there's still a lot like Alex Tuch is still a really strong player. Jack Quinn looks really good. Peterka looks good. On the blue line, obviously you have Power. You have Rasmus Dahlin, who's maybe the most criminally underrated defenseman in the NHL. Like he needs a playoff run like Thomas Harley's having right now, so people can realize how good Rasmus Dahlin is, because I don't think people really have fully grasped that yet. But it doesn't seem like they can bring it together, and I don't like. They might be the most confusing team in the NHL for me right now, because I don't really know like what you do in this situation.
And I think it's really interesting too, because from a salary cap perspective, Josh Norris is the highest paid forward on this team.
Yeah.
And you have Tage Thompson and Alex Tuch on this roster, which is just astounding to me that they've done a pretty good job with their contracts. Dahlin's 11 million kicks in, I believe, this year, 25-26. So they don't really have like any killer contracts here. I mean, they extended Jason Zucker and I believe it was Jordan Greenway to like bridge deals, but that's not really going to have any long-term effect. So like you look at this team, good prospect pool, no contract sinking them. They have some core pieces there now that are pretty good. So I mean, I feel like worst spot. Like you look at the Sabres, they're in a good spot. They just can't put it together. And
yeah,
I don't know, it's just because of the attitude surrounding the organization from the upper level management, or they just haven't found the right coach. But definitely not the worst spot to be in if you're a Buffalo Sabres fan. And what are some potential moves? Like, where do you go with this is really interesting, because it's not like I can point out one thing on the roster or with the contracts or trades and be like, that's the reason this team is in purgatory. I can't.
Yeah.
And the only thing I can point at is management at this point, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I mean, but even that, like, I mean, you look at the roster, like, there's nothing like fundamentally wrong with the roster itself. It's just it's such a strange situation because like I think it's just kind of like and this is gonna be such a 200 hockey man like buzzword thing, but it's just like the aura of this team just non-existent. Like there's nothing, like there's nobody on this team that I look at. It's very similar to like the pre-Connor McDavid Edmonton Oilers, where they were just like they had this great accumulation of talent. They had all these high draft picks, but they just like they didn't have anything to bring it together. And like I really think, and like we really didn't see the Oilers pop off until they kind of cleaned the entire system of those young players that they had built around, right? Like Hopkins is the only one remaining. Like Hall and Eberle were shipped off and everything. I'm not saying that the Sabres should trade everybody away, but I do think it's really interesting that like obviously we saw the Josh Norris trade and at the time we said that the Sabres lost that move, but you know they brought in a different player in a key role and who's like you know similar enough level to what they gave up, you know, give or take a bit, but like same general tier of player. And maybe that's just kind of what they need to do. Maybe they just need to make hockey trades to kind of swap out players in this roster because the guys in the room right now aren't buying in and don't believe in the Buffalo Sabres as a like as a organization. And I like it that kind of seemed to work for the Oilers. Um, and then they had to go watch Taylor Hall win an MVP like the next season. But uh, but I'm saying right, the Oilers are in a better position now than they were 10 years ago. So, well, I mean, you know, who knows? They haven't won a cup yet, so that's up for debate, I guess. But like realistically, right, the Oilers are a perennial playoff team now, so that's better than when they weren't. Um, it feels like Buffalo kind of has to do the same thing, but the problem is they don't have their Connor McDavid, right? They don't have or Leon Draisaitl. At the time, Leon Draisaitl wasn't really projected to be the player that he is now. But like they don't have that true like anchor player on this team. And like Tage Thompson's a really fine hockey player, but he's not, you know, Connor McDavid. So like I don't know what, and like they're not gonna be bad enough to get a top 3 pick next year, like you hope. So that's kind of the one problem I see with that. It's like you can make all these moves to kind of swap out the players that are there right now, but when you don't have that anchor piece, and I guess you could look at like Rasmus Dahlin being the best player on the team, but and I think he's great, but he's not even like a Cale Makar, right? Where it's like that's kind of your main driver. Like I think that's what they're lacking is that like that true like star option. I don't think every team necessarily needs one. I mean, Vegas, you could argue won a Stanley Cup without one. Um, and St. Louis won a cup without one, but like when you're rebuilding the culture of an organization, I think you kind of do.
Yeah, and I think another thing involved with this whole Sabres dilemma is I feel like we as public people don't realize how important those glue guys are in the locker room, even though they might not have
Sure.
the most impressive box score or
Yeah, I agree.
underlying metrics. And I think we saw that with the Rangers too. They had Joe Micheletti on a podcast who was the assistant announcer for Sam Rosen for 40 years. And he talked about the raft and all the issues that were called with the whole Jacob Trouba and Barclay Goodrow saga, having a captain and assistant captain waived and then treated poorly in trade talks for months, and how that really affected the Rangers locker room. We saw that on the ice
Oh, for sure.
this season for the Rangers, going from President's Trophy to missing the playoffs. So maybe it's something for the Sabres like that, where they just need a few of those guys. I'm not saying load the roster with all these guys who hit heavy and kill penalties, but maybe you can get a couple of those guys and try and find some glue guys to maybe bring some of this core together. Maybe everybody on this roster is very similar, like Peyton Krebs, Zach Benson, Isaac Rosen, Yuri Kulich, Jack Quinn. Like they're all like young, talented players, but maybe
Yeah.
this roster just needs some more diversity.
No, I definitely could see that, but like I guess and I mean it could just be like getting the right guys, right? Because I mean they just signed Jordan Greenway and Jason Zucker to extension. I think both those guys kind of fit that role, but those are guys that have been here for a couple of years, or I
Yeah.
guess Jason Zucker's here has been here for a season, and it really hasn't done anything. So like I don't know. Like I can see that being an option for sure. I just don't know who you get. Like, I don't know who you bring into this room to like fundamentally fix the culture.
There's
Just
just
like
no
Jason Zucker
culture.
didn't do it. Like, so like, I feel like I don't know if there's somebody strong enough on the market. Like that could have been like the Patrick Maroon move, right? But again, like Chicago tried that for 2 years and it didn't work either. So like, maybe it did. I don't. It's too early to tell, I guess. But like, I I don't disagree with that line of thinking. I just don't know who you go get. Like I don't know what
I
like
got it.
core like who is it? Tell me.
Speaking of Chicago and Patrick, you bring in the hometown Buffalo
Oh
man,
God.
Patrick Kane,
But
to
like,
fix the Buffaloes. No, I was just kidding.
is that gonna do it? Like, no, I don't think so. Maybe Jonathan Taves comes out of retirement. There it is. We found it. The Jonathan Taves rumors have ended. He's not signing in Winnipeg. He's gonna go to Buffalo. It's
I
basically the
don't
same
know.
city.
I mean, I think they have a goalie too now at UPL. He's looked pretty damn good the last year or two.
He does. That's what I mean. Like the roster itself look like the shiny pieces on the roster look really good.
I have a good question for the Sabres.
Yes, sure.
If the Sabres play in the Pacific Division last year, did they make the playoffs? Or this past season,
Like this season,
2025? Yeah.
I don't know. Like hmm. They probably finished fourth in the. I don't know if they're better than Edmonton
Yeah.
because Edmonton finished third, right? Like I think if I don't think they're better than LA either. So like I don't know if they beat out either of those two teams. Obviously their strength of schedule would have been easier, but um they are in part like a symptom of being in the Atlantic Division. Like I can acknowledge that. But you're still gonna be battling. Like I'd rather be it in a weird way. Like I'd rather be in the strong division in my conference than not, because like the Metro and Pacific are only gonna send 3 teams, whereas like the Atlantic are gonna send 5. So you have like a higher. Obviously, like there's the wild card too, but like fundamentally from the standings, like you only have to reach 5th in your division to make the playoffs instead of 3rd. Like I feel like the amount of teams you have to leapfrog is lower in a weird like psychological. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Uh, because like finishing 4th in the Pacific probably doesn't get you into the playoffs because you're not going to beat out like St. Louis. Maybe they could have beat out St. Louis. I don't know, but like maybe
I
maybe
get
they're
what you're
better than
saying.
St. Louis. But I don't know. It would have been close. Like they would have been in that race with the Blues. I think they would have put up a bigger fight than the Flames did.
Flames put up a pretty damn good fight.
Well, Joseph Wall put up a really good fight, or Joseph Wall,
Dustin
Dustin
Wolf.
Wolf put up a really good fight for the playoff spot. Let's not get it twisted here. But Joseph Wall's putting a pretty good fight in the playoffs, even though he's lost both his
Yes.
games. But yeah. I guess we can. Oh yeah. So how are we fixing the Sabres? Which player are we bringing in? Who are we signing? Jonathan Taves? Is that the move?
Oh,
Jonathan Taves.
just a troll episode.
Like I'm not even kidding. Like I don't think that's like. I genuinely don't think that's the worst option.
Sure. I mean,
Like if he's gonna play, like if you want somebody who's gonna change the culture and play like 10 minutes a night on your 4th line, like there's no
yeah.
better like unless you're trading for Sidney Crosby. Like I don't know
I
who
mean,
you're getting. Like
the last time the Sabres team had aura is when Kyle Okposo was captain. So
hell yeah. Yeah, I'll give it to Thomas Vanek. I'll give it to my boy. That was so great. Like that time in Buffalo Sabres in like the early 2010s when they traded like 5 captains away in the span of like 2 years was insane. That was a crazy time to be a Buffalo because it was like Jason Pominville was traded, Derek Roy retired or something, Vanek was traded to the Islanders, Steve Ott was traded to Montreal, I believe. Oposo, what happened to Oposo? I think he was just bought out.
they traded him to Florida. He won the cup.
They did trade. Yeah, that's right. No, but like before, like, or I guess he wasn't the captain in like the early 2010s.
He was with the Islanders.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And then he signed that long extension with he's
Yes,
on
that's right.
that
Yeah,
free
that was
agency with
afterwards. That was
Buffalo.
afterwards. I'm talking more like the 20 like 13 to 2015. So he had signed, but he wasn't the captain. I think he might have been the captain that ended that streak of like Sabres captains getting traded in the span of like 2 years. It was insane. They had like 5 like in
Let's look
2
up the list
seasons.
of Buffalo Sabres captains.
Because it was Pominville, Ott, Vanek, I think Brian Giotto was in there at one point.
Yeah,
It was
definitely.
just like, it was this
And then
weird,
they
but
all
like,
went to Montreal. Vanek was in Montreal after
Steve
that.
Ott went to Montreal. But it was after Giotto had left. Like,
Yeah,
Giotto was in Montreal, and then he
Gianto
went
went
to
to
Buffalo.
Montreal.
But it was just
Uh,
like, it's crazy. They had like four or five
and
captains in like two
Eichel,
seasons. Oh yeah,
Eichel
and then it was
too.
Eichel. Yeah, that's what it was. Eichel. Eichel was the one that ended the streak, and then they traded Eichel, and then it was Poso. So they traded Eichel too. Yeah, Jesus Christ.
Uh,
If you want out of Buffalo, just become the captain. We'll ship you out. There was three. It was definitely Vanek, Pominville, and Ott
the
during
one
that time. I
before,
think there was one
yeah,
more.
before it was Craig Rivert.
I think they bought him out because he was in Montreal too.
Yeah, it was him
But then he
from.
left.
It says from October 2008 to February 2011.
Okay,
So
yeah.
he must have
And
been
then after that
traded.
was Pominville, right?
Yeah, then Palmville,
Yeah, they probably
Vanek,
traded him at the
Ott,
deadline.
Gianta.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they traded him at the deadline in February, and then it was Pominville who was traded to
So that means
Minnesota.
Rasmus Dahlin's getting traded in the next couple years. That's all you need
Well,
to
you
know.
might want out. There's been rumors, so it makes sense. It's insane though. Like just like the short span of time that all these captains were moved. Anyway, so if you want out of Buffalo, become the team captain, and they'll move
Yeah,
you.
Pominville was named captain in 2011, 2012, and Gianta was traded away in 2017. So 5 years, you had four captains there.
It's crazy. It's insane. It's crazy.
There's some
So
hockey encyclopedia stuff.
there you go. It's like the defense against the dark arts teacher of the NHL is being the Buffalo Sabres captain in the early 2010s. That's your Harry Potter reference for the day. Let's jump over to Anaheim. Um, this one's timely because they just hired a head coach. um, not controversial at all, by the way. Very universally agreed upon decision. And I want to get your thoughts on it, but I kind of want to talk about it. I've been kind of thinking about how I'm going to say this honestly, because my stance on the whole Chicago Blackhawks thing has been, and before I start this, I want to point out that like Joel Quenneville is one of the best head coaches of my lifetime on ice, like tactically. He fundamentally changed how we play hockey. He pioneered more or less the possession style hockey that like everybody plays now except for the Hurricanes. Um, he's the one who created kind of the modern day two-way defenseman in Duncan Keith, activating like all the time. And he has 3 Stanley Cups, right? Like the resume is there. He's a Hall of Fame head coach. In the same way that Stan Bowman's probably a Hall of Fame GM. So like for if everything else didn't matter, this is a home run hire by the Ducks because he is somebody who has worked very well with young teams. This Ducks team reminds me a lot of the 2008 Blackhawks, honestly. So like I get it from an on ice hockey perspective. But my point of view has always been everybody who's in that room in 2010 in Chicago should never work in the NHL again. And I've been pretty firm on that because I hate people using the word mistake for what happened because like it wasn't a mistake. A mistake was writing Alex Nylander's name on the lineup card for Game 6 against Ottawa. Which, by the way, if the Leafs lose that series and Alex Nylander had to play William Nylander was unable to play in Game 6, whoever did that was fired. It would have been fired and never been in the NHL again. I just like the point, like that's that's just a fact. But like for real, right? Like that person's never in the NHL again. Joel Quenneville's been out of the league for 4 years. I get it. He has the resume and everything. But what they did wasn't a mistake. It was a deliberate effort to put winning over the safety of one of your players. And the Ducks have went on the media, like the media campaign's begun, where Verbeek's coming out and saying that he's changed and he's learned from his error, and the ownership has come out and said what they had to say. I haven't heard anything about like the league talking to Cal Beach. I know they did when they reinstated Stan Bowman, and I genuinely hope that he's at a place now where he's at peace with what happened and he's healed. But let's be honest, if he would have come out and said, I don't want these guys in the NHL ever again, the very vocal minority of hockey fans online would have ripped him apart even more than they already are. Right? Like he would have become the villain in that situation because now it's like, well, now you're tearing down the careers of two Hall of Fame like legends of this era. And that's what the reaction would have been. So I really hope that his okay for these people to be back in the NHL is genuine. But we'll never know. In the same way that we really won't know if all this like soul searching that Joel Quenneville's done over the last 4 years has done anything, right? Like the only way we're gonna know is if a situation like this happens again, which like God, I hope it doesn't. But like realistically, right? Like we're never gonna know if he has learned from it or Stan Bowman's learned from it. And I guess like the two things I want to say on this, and then I do have a caveat at the end. Like if I was a parent of a 17 or 18-year-old kid that's gonna get drafted in a month, and I was putting my faith in an organization to take care of my child for the next 20 years of his career, I wouldn't want him playing for the Anaheim Ducks. Straight up, like I wouldn't feel safe with that. That's been shown. And my one caveat to this, the one but, and this is a really small but because I don't think it matters, but it's there, and I have to talk about it. Like if all this soul searching is genuine, right? And I have a lot of questions about that because all this soul searching didn't happen until they got caught. So there's that, right? Like they had to live with this for over a decade that this happened, and nobody said anything, and nothing came out, and everybody lived their lives like nothing happened. So the oops, I made a mistake didn't happen until you got caught. But if all this soul searching is genuine, and Joel Quenneville and Stan Bowman are changed, and they understand what they did wrong, and they want to be better people, there really isn't anybody more qualified to be able to see a situation like this developing and act upon it. If that's the case, right? And that's what we want. We want people to change, and we want people to improve from situations. And unfortunately, we won't know if that's actually the case unless something like this happens again. And I guess my last point on it before we get into the Ducks is, and there's really no right answer to this, I guess, but if Kyle Beach's name was Jonathan Taves or Patrick Kane, does Chicago handle that situation differently? And either way you answer that question isn't the right answer because of how they actually did handle it. So I hope that Kyle Beach is at peace with this. I hope that he's at peace with the fact that two people that directly led to the worst experience of his, or at least didn't do anything about the worst experience of his life, are back in the NHL. I hope that he's at peace with that. And I hope that they have learned from that situation and are better people and are going to be champions of protecting the athletes that they're hired to protect. On ice, Joel Quenneville's, like I said, one of the best coaches I've ever seen. But I wouldn't have made this move. I think there's enough very qualified coaches who have never got a shot at an NHL job that could have, even including Greg Cronin, who was fired after improving the Ducks by 21 points, by the way. I think that there was a lot of other options they could have went with instead of this. So that's my soapbox on it. I don't know if you have any comments. Otherwise, we can get into the roster itself. But
yeah, sure. The one comment I will make is I have seen Joe Quenneville actually in the last 4 years since he's been out of the NHL. I met him in person when I was playing, and back in my playing days. He came and he gave in my team's locker room, and he gave a pep talk during a playoff series for us, which was kind of cool.
That's cool.
Despite what he did.
Yeah.
I had a book, a hockey analytics book called Stat Shot, which I'm sure some of our viewers are familiar with.
Right there.
He did sign the inside cover for me, so obviously it seems like he's done some soul searching. From my experience with him, obviously, like you said, he's a great tactical head coach. Was it the right move to hire him? For me, it's a TBD. I believe in redemption and giving people second chances. I don't believe that he should be banished away forever, but I think he should be held on a very tight leash. And I don't know if this is the move I would have made, despite believing in forgiveness.
Yeah, I think it's I mean it hasn't been as much of a PR. It's well honestly it's been about as talked about as I expected to be talked about by the hockey community in terms of the Stan Bowman hire, right? Like it was in the news cycle for like a week and then nobody really cared anymore. And I think that's a symptom of the NHL in general. Like I think whether or not you want to rip them apart for it, um, I think that it should still be a topic of conversation, right? And I think when it comes to Hall of Fame voting, I definitely think it should be part of that discussion as well. Um, but like I said, like if they truly have learned from the situation and have changed, there really shouldn't be anybody more qualified to notice a situation like this and act properly, right? Like
Yeah.
realistically, like these are the two people. If everything that they're saying is true, there isn't anybody else in the league that should be more qualified to properly handle this situation if it does come up again. So
And I
there
mean,
is that.
that's a good positive light and a good way to look at it as well, because if there is an incident to come up again, having people that have been through that experience and have done redeeming stuff to make a comeback, I think is good as well. So
Yeah,
hopefully people like Joel Quenneville and Stan Bowman for the future of hockey can be a part of something like that to help prevent those situations from happening in the future. So
absolutely. Yeah, for sure. But let's get to this roster because
it's a pretty
it's
interesting roster.
it is. I think it's got a lot of similarities to Buffalo, honestly. Um, minus the 20 years of negative history. Um, I do see a lot of similarities to this roster. I think they have a lot of really good young talent coming up. I don't think that their prospect pool is as good as Buffalo's. Um, but I think their on ice roster might be better. Um, very similar in points. I think they're like 2 points apart, but obviously the Ducks are in the Pacific. So there's that if you want to, use that as a negative to them. But obviously they did have the big improvement from this year to last year, and it seems like they found their true number one goalie in Lucas Dostal, and John Gibson had a fine season as well. So they seem to be okay there. I don't know, other than like just patience. I don't know if this team's necessarily in need of like a big ad. Um, especially with like the hockey tactics of a Joel Quenneville coming in. Like I don't know how that's going to change anything. I don't know if being out of the league for 4 years is going to affect him either, right? So there's a lot of on ice factors there um that could potentially be uh negatives, but I don't know. I'm curious to see what your thoughts are on this roster as a whole. I definitely think that there's been a lack of development, I'd say, is the biggest thing from the players that are supposed to be like the future of the Anaheim Ducks. I think that's my biggest concern, is that like it seems like Mason McTavish has hit a bit of a wall. Trevor Zegras has clearly hit a wall. I didn't see, as good as Troy Terry's been, I don't think I saw like a next step from him this year. So obviously you have like Leo Carlson, Cutter Gauthier. It's too early to say on their development, but I definitely, based on the track record of the development system so far, that's probably my biggest concern going into this off season.
I do have a question. I don't know if you're on Puckpedia right now, but why does it say that Tim Walsh makes $7 million? Do you see this?
Yeah, that's fun. Puckpedia is a strange place. I
So outside of that,
It's a two-way contract though, so that's cool.
yeah. So outside of that, Anaheim's interesting because I think they have those more established glue pieces that we talked about with Buffalo. They have a Alex Killorn, they have a Ryan Strome,
Mhm.
they have a Frank Vetrano,
Yeah,
Robbie Fabry. Like they have a couple of those guys that are those glue guys that are veterans that have got paid a little extra salary to come play here from free agency. But then they also have those young guys too, right? They have the Leo Carlsons, they have the Mason McTavishes, and then we've also seen some stunt in growth from Trevor Zegras, like you mentioned. And I think he could be one of the most interesting players this offseason for the Ducks. Like, is this a guy that
yeah,
you move on from with 1 year left on his contract? Is this somebody that you continue to develop and hope that Joel Quenneville can unlock something new in him? I just think there's so many different routes you can take. But for me, for the Ducks this offseason, the whole goal for me would be to stay the course, because if you have a guy like
Yeah.
Joel Quenneville coming in to coach this team, I think you just ride it out with a similar roster going to next year. And I think you stay stagnant and you bank on some growth development with a new head coach, knowing his capabilities and history, Joel Quenneville. I think this could be really interesting. During the jumping points they had, I think you just ride it out next year. I'd love to see what a
Yeah.
player like Jackson Lacombe could become, especially like you talked about with Duncan Keith becoming the two-way defenseman. I think if you have Joel Quenneville working with Jackson Lacombe, we could see 50, 60 points next year.
Yeah. And I mean, even like we saw like the bit of stagnation in Mintikov's game
Yeah,
this season.
for
That could be
sure.
another guy to watch too. But doesn't it feel like I feel like the Ducks hold on to Zegras at least until the deadline this year, simply because like he is like the best suited player on this roster. Now I'm gonna get flamed for this, but I want people to understand what I'm saying. I'm not comparing the two players in terms of like talent level, but like
Patrick Kane.
he's probably the best suited to play the Patrick Kane role on this team
Yep.
in terms of like his skill set. So like if you're gonna plug guys into this system in the same way that like the 2008 uh, Chicago Blackhawks looked, and now again like if you want to get into the history of it, um, the Blackhawks the year before Joel Quenneville got there were not a playoff team, and they went to the Western Conference like semifinals this first year, and then they won the Stanley Cup. So, you know, um, it, I see a lot of similarities in the way this roster is put together to that team. Um, I just don't know if like the talent, like it feels like a Walmart version of what that team was right now. Um, because like I don't know if Leo Carlson can be the elite two-way center that Patrick Kane was. I don't know. Like obviously Travis Degrasse isn't going to be what Patrick Kane was. Um, but you have enough like interesting pieces here that I think you kind of just ride it out. And maybe you make a couple like edge moves to shore up the roster, but I really don't know if there's like anything significant. Maybe you add a defenseman, um, depending on how you feel about Jacob Trouba playing in your top four. Um, but like and even Radko Gudas, I think is more suited at this point to be like a bottom of the roster, more of a bottom of the roster guy than a top of the roster guy. Um, so maybe you go out and add like another puck moving defenseman. But other than that, like I feel like you just kind of stay the course and see what this team looks like in December,
Yeah,
right? Like that's
absolutely.
I feel like there's enough here to like in a division that's extremely weak with teams that are kind of in flux, right? Because like it seems like LA is going to kind of go a bit of a different. Like who knows what they're going to do this season? Like Vancouver is kind of in flux. San Jose is probably going to be a bottom of the league team again. So there's already Seattle's a mess. So there's already opportunity for the Ducks to like the floor for Anaheim is pretty high. It's just about how high this core can get you with the ceiling. So I think you give it till like mid-season, and
Okay.
then you kind of have to do after that, right? Like if Trevor Zegras hasn't figured it out by December, he's probably the first guy off this team. It's like you've
Hmm.
given him enough. I think you've given him enough leeway. And you can probably say that for a couple guys, right? Like I don't think that I think you have to have a conversation about Mason McTavish's future on this team too if he hasn't like turned the corner. Which is crazy to say because like 3 years ago everybody thought he was going to be the next Sidney Crosby, because he scored like 20 points in the World Juniors. But I think we're getting closer to throwing McTavish into the pool of great World Junior performances that never truly took that next step of development than we are calling him the next Sidney Crosby. So uh, I think you give it like maybe you can go till like the trade deadline. That might be a little bit far because if the team's trying to make the playoffs. You probably want to. You're probably looking like end of December at making moves, but at this point you just kind of ride it out and see what happens. Add a couple edge guys. This could be a good like Joel Armia team. I feel, just to shore up like the defense and the power of the penalty kill. If he doesn't get re-signed, I would be kind of surprised if Montreal doesn't re-sign him for like a 2-year deal. But if he hits the market, this could be a team where he fits. He feels like somebody that would work in a Joel Quenneville system. But other than that, like I don't think you're really doing anything crazy.
And I think it's scary the comparison to this 2009 Blackhawks team. By the way, I've just been looking through the roster, and I'm gonna
Yeah, it's really similar. It's crazy.
I'm gonna list off my comparisons. Tell me what you think. Patrick Kane, Trevor Zegras,
Sure.
Duncan Keith, Jackson Lacombe,
Sure. Yeah.
Jonathan
Again, we're not
Toews.
like comparing these players,
Yeah.
but like just stylistically.
Jonathan Toews, I think you argue, is Mason McTavish in this case.
Sure.
Patrick Sharp, Cutter Gauthier. Can't convince me
Yeah.
otherwise.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Marian Hossa, Leo Carlson.
Yes. Although Hossa was added later, but yeah, same thing.
Andrew Ladd.
He was on there.
Yeah. Andrew Ladd, Alex Killorn.
Sure. I could argue him is Killorn or Strome, but yeah.
Yeah.
I guess as a winger, Killorn.
Dustin Byfuglien and Brett Seabrook. Radko Gudas and Jacob Trouba.
Yeah.
There you go.
Just move Radko Gudas to forward, and everything will be fine. Like that's what you do. Just throw him on your third line, and that's your power forward on the because this is the pre.
Yeah.
Dustin Byfuglien was like he was drafted as a forward, which is crazy. Like he didn't become a defenseman until like was it late in the Chicago days or was it when he went to Atlanta? I can't remember. I don't think he played defense till he went to Atlanta because he left out. No, because he left after 2010.
Yeah, it was.
It's crazy. The Thrashers just made him a defenseman, and he was like an all-star level defense. Like it's crazy.
And you can move Gudas to forward and have a top four with Lacombe, Zellweger, Minchikov, and Trouba. I don't see a problem with that.
Olin Zellweger is kind of like a young Brian Campbell. That's like
there you go.
There you go. Like, man, it's really scary how similar these teams are.
And Becca Seneca could be Chris Versteeg. There you go.
There you go.
Oh, but can we talk about Nicholas Hjalmarsson back in the day?
Oh god, so good, so underrated, man. Like
they don't have a Nicholas Hjalmarsson yet.
They don't. I don't know who's on the market. Who's like your true shutdown defenseman they could bring in that for like $1 million that nobody's gonna talk about.
David Savard out of retirement.
Yeah, no. But yeah, like I think you just kind of ride.
Yeah, who's even on the market?
I don't know. There's not a whole lot. I don't think.
It just depends.
Yeah. But like that, my mindset on the Ducks wasn't stay the course like 2 days ago.
But now it is.
Because I think the situation has changed like dramatically, right? Although I could have made an argument that based on the points jump that they had, like you could have just stayed the course with Greg Cronin too. But fundamentally, like the situation has changed in Anaheim, and I think that's important. So yeah, I think you kind of just stick it out, and see what happens by like December, January. We fix the Ducks by doing nothing. By
moving Radko Gudas to forward and pairing them to the Blackhawks.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, there you go. Thank you for listening. When does the second round end? Does it end before? It doesn't. There's no way it ends before Monday, right?
Let's see. I will check my phone right now.
There's no way it ends before. I can't. Maybe. I don't know.
Monday would be Game 7 for Dallas and Washington.
Series. Yeah, so it'll be the Dallas and Winnipeg Game 7 then. Because Washington's gonna win it in 6.
You mean Carolina?
No, Washington's gonna win it in 6.
You think Washington's winning it?
I know what I said.
You weren't very high on them.
No, I'm kidding. Yeah. So likely a third round
preview. Yeah. Likely.
Although
Although the Dallas Winnipeg could go 7.
Yeah, really good. It depends on what happens in Game 4, right? Like if Winnipeg wins Game 4, then sure it'll go 7. If Dallas wins, I can't see Winnipeg winning 3 in a row.
Maybe we'll do a podcast live during the game.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, this is one of those late games. It's gonna be it might be. if Carolina Washington goes to Game 7, that game's not starting until like 9 p.m. But yeah, maybe we'll do an episode at like 1 a.m, previewing the second round. But anyway, next episode is likely going to be the round 2 preview. Will be, and if that game's in 7, then we'll just do hypothetical situations for both.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for listening. Let us know what you think of the second round down below. I think the second round so far, the first half of the second round has been better than the first half of the first round was. So hopefully they can carry that into the last half, because the last like week and a half of hockey has been crazy. This weekend was crazy. This is a wild. We didn't even talk about Mason Marchman slashing the ref. That was a it was a crazy situation. I don't know how he didn't get suspended for that, but I whatever.
And the Nick
It
Wall
happened.
cross check. Oh my
Yeah, the
God.
Nick Wall cross check
It was
happened.
bloody murder.
You had the you had the 0.4 second goal. You had the 10-minute review. You had the whatever's going on in Florida and Toronto. Uh, Sam Bennett killing Anthony Stolarz. Like it's been wild. What a round two. Thank you for listening. And we'll see you next week, probably for more chaos.